Hey Hylians! So on the day we got the newest trailer and title drop for Breath of the Wild's sequel Tears of the Kingdom, I did a live stream where I reacted to the trailer. And shortly after, I did a quick first impressions analysis of the trailer, which are both up on my channel. But I knew I wanted to do a much longer, more in-depth video over every little thing I could see hidden in that trailer. And after watching the trailer more and more times, I found some very cool little details that you may have missed. So let's take another much closer look at the trailer for The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. It is so nice to finally have a proper title. The trailer opens up on a close-up of a carving of an interesting creature with embers of nearby fire floating around it. This character, while we don't know if they'll make a physical appearance within the game so far, is clearly important. Not only are they depicted in a way which makes me think that they are perhaps some kind of deity, as we move on, we'll see that there is most certainly a connection between them and Princess Zelda. Though whether that connection is good or bad, we will have to wait and see. A couple of interesting things about the figure themselves is that they seem to have a third eye that is closed on their forehead. The third eye can be a depiction of enlightenment and insight more than what most can see. But for this figure to have that eye closed is very interesting, especially if they're a god. Another smaller thing, but something we will see more of as we go on, are the triangles around the eyes. This could simply be because of the art style these carvings are done in, or it could actually be a part of the character's actual design. Either way, it makes me think that these carvings, and so this character we see, have relations with the Sheikah, as the eye and the three triangles above it is a symbol of their people. Moving on, we see another part of this carving, depicting a battle between humans and monsters, while what seems to be a flood of malice covers the ground the monsters walk on as they make their way towards the humans. There are 15 humans, 10 of which seem to be male and 5 female. You can see one of the women laying down surrounded by monsters close to the middle of the piece, while a man lays way off to the right also surrounded by monsters. It's safe to say that these two are probably dead, killed by the hordes of moblins and bokoblins. The horde itself is made up of 23, at least what we can see within this section, 4 moblins and the rest being bokoblins. Though looking right at the top you can see something that is not human and not moblin or bokoblin. Because we can see so little of it, it's hard to say what it could be, but it looks to possibly be a couple of wings. Maybe a new or returning winged enemy? Well, we might actually see what it could be later on in the trailer. After this, we're back with the new mysterious character. Though before the camera pans all the way up to them, if you look at the very bottom of the screen you can see what looks to be mountains and perhaps a volcano. Maybe Death Mountain? We are then shown all of this new character and can see that they are definitely seen as some kind of god, as they sit on a pedestal right above those mountains below while rays of light shine down around them and what seems to maybe be the depiction of clouds floating either side of them. Around the entity also float 7 orbs which contain what looks to be a swirl. Now I think that these orbs, or at least what they are depicting, are going to be something that we will be collecting or at least seeking out throughout the game. And I think there's a high chance that these could possibly be Tears of Light. The game's name is Tears of the Kingdom, and Tears of Light are a pretty reoccurring item within the series, seen within Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword and even Spirit Tracks. And saying this game will clearly have connections to Skyward Sword due to it taking place partly within the sky, I wouldn't put it past the team working on the game to reuse a concept like that in a new way. We can also see on the left what seems to possibly be a pillar, and next to it some symbols that I believe are some kind of text. And if you saw my video talking about the Zonai in the sky, and if you didn't, I'll leave a link around the video somewhere for you to check it out, you will know that I believe the text that we see within the first trailers around Ganondorf is ancient skywriting, first seen in Twilight Princess, and I'm guessing this could also be the same. We then can see a depiction of a person floating. Now, I've seen some people say that they think this character is supposed to be Ganondorf, but I instantly thought of Zelda. More specifically, this reminds me a lot of the ending of Skyward Sword, where Girahim is casting the spell over her and she begins to float. We can see that just like the new deity character, she also has triangles around her eyes, which is why I can't be so sure if this is supposed to be a Sheikah Zelda or this is simply Sheikah artwork, though I do feel it's more likely to be artwork made by some Sheikah, or maybe even some Yiga. What is interesting though is on her forehead there seems to be something round. This could simply be a crown or tiara, as Zelda has worn ones that rest on her forehead many times in the series. But what if it was an eye like the deity? If it was, unlike the deity, her third eye would be open. It's also pretty interesting that she is depicted wearing almost the exact same clothing as the deity character, with very similar items around her neck and on her chest. Moving away from the girl, we can see under her Malice reaching up. This again makes me think of Skyward Sword, as when Demise, or the Imprisoned, awakens, a black smoke pours out from the ground, and this happens when Zelda is also floating right above it at the end of the game. We also then have a figure on the right of the girl, though most of them is cut off by the screen. It's very hard to tell who or what this may be, but I did think it looks somewhat like a person in a skirt not wearing anything on their top half. And this reminds me of Demise, who wears some kind of skirt but nothing on his top half, and had black skin like this possible character. This would also go with my thoughts of this girl possibly being Zelda from Skyward Sword, but the question is, why? Why would a game from the start of the timeline be depicted like this so far after that? Moving on, we then see the girl again standing and holding hands with someone who is just off screen out of sight. Though if we skip all the way to the end of the trailer, we will see that this image is shown again right at the very end, hidden behind the logo for the game. And if we look carefully, we can see the girl is holding hands with the mysterious entity from before. This could be depicting many things between them. A friendship, a truce, perhaps that the two are connected to one another through more magical means. Above them we see two of the possible tiers from before, but this time the two are both within one circle, not their own individual ones. The shapes of them together also almost look like that of a heart. Around it also looks to be more lines representing rays of light that shine from the two possible tiers on and around the girl and the entity. If this entity is a god and the girl is Zelda, it would be quite fitting as Zelda is both the princess and reincarnation of the goddess Hylia. Going back to where we were before we skip forward, we can also see next to the girl on her right another possible pillar, and next to it more text. I'm very curious about what this text says, and I hope we could possibly be able to read it in-game if we find more of it. I think it would be a very cool way to learn more about the people who left these images to simply read what they left. I also want to note that I don't think any of these images that we've seen within this trailer are in the same place as the ones of Ganondorf are. These ones seem a lot more taken care of and look more like carvings, while the other ones of Ganondorf from the first trailer looked a little bit more worn and seemed to have been drawn or painted on. Next, we finally move away from old cave carvings and see Link as he slowly pushes open a pair of very large stone doors. On the doors are two dragons, one on the left door and one on the right, who both meet face to face at the top to create a circle. The heads of the dragons look extremely similar to that of the style of the statues made by the Zonai and left around Hyrule, which could imply that this place was also made by them. We can even see some of that text from before faintly carved into the doors on the bodies of each dragon. But if you look at where Link is pushing on the door, you can also see what looks to be the outline of an eye symbol, clearly pointing towards this having something to do with the Sheikah. The lines that go down the middle of the door also giving the eye the appearance of having the tear under it. If we look in the top corners of both of the doors, we can see some circular patterns. At first, these look to me like the same circular patterns found in Breath of the Wild and that have been used in a lot of artwork and promotional art for the game. But these spirals are new and different to them, and reminded me a lot of those traditional Japanese sand gardens where they use rakes to put patterns into the sand. As Link opens the doors, we see a large amount of dust filling the opening, suggesting that these doors may not have been opened for a very long time. There's a stone pathway leading in front of Link, with grass either side. If you look to the top of the screen, you can see some small rectangular shapes that seem to hang out over the exit from above at a higher place of this building we have exited. Also, looking to the top right of the exit, we can see off in the distance by some clouds what looks to be another sky island, this one being far higher in the sky than where we currently are. As Link runs forward, we can see the path leads to a stone bridge or a platform, where two smaller stone dragon heads are attached to the sides. We can see small pillars on either side of the bridge or platform, and off in the distance we can see a structure which we have also seen before in some of the other trailers. It looks to be some kind of archway or gazebo type structure that we'll be able to walk through. Link is also shown with a new shield with a new symbol on it. The symbol resembles an eye, though it's different to the traditional Sheikah eye symbol. We can see that he is wearing his champion's tunic but with new padding and pockets added. We first saw this in the announcement trailer for the game. He's also wearing the Hylian hood, a headpiece you could buy within Breath of the Wild. A very small but interesting new detail is hiding on his left hip, where we can see something holding what looks to be a couple of glass vials, though we will get a better look at this in a second. Within this shot, due to the lighting, it's a little hard to tell if Link's arm has already changed to his new funky magical arm, but when we move to the next clip, we can see that Link here does have his new arm, and from the looks of this area around him, it looks to be around the same point of the game. As Link runs forward towards the camera, we can see a huge cloud behind him, covering the area of ground he'd likely just ran over. Could this mean while playing up in the sky, while on some islands, clouds could pass through the islands, making it harder to see? I think this could be a pretty interesting mechanic to work into some puzzles. On the left is a large stone building. It seems more like it's made out of large bricks of stone, different to the smooth stone walls that we'll see on the rest of the cliff. Saying this clip looks to be in a similar area to the last one, this building could be where Link just came from after opening up the two large stone doors. We can see that where Link is running is also not just grass, but looks to have once been a stone path, now more overgrown and left to become more damaged. Maybe this path once led to that building. In the background to the right, we can also see another piece of land, maybe connected to this one that Link is currently on, with a couple of yellow trees. We first saw these trees within the last trailer. We can also see a lot of beautiful flowers and grass covering the land, just like we saw all over Breath of the Wild, something I feel really adds a lot of beauty to the game. Moving just a little bit further on in the trailer, we can see more of the cliff on the left, and we can see that the stone of the cliffs is very different to the stone bricks, definitely showing that this is some kind of building built into the cliffside. Looking on top of the building, we can also see a strange new structure that looks to be a large cube, though hollow. At first I thought this could possibly be a monster camp, and this being one of their little outlooks, but it looks to also be made of stone, while theirs were always made of wood and twigs. I do feel though that this cube could be some kind of landmark, as we do see more later on in the trailer. Also, looking at the cliffs, you can see two trees, though unlike the ones we just saw moments ago, these ones have no leaves and look almost dead. Interestingly, the ground is also different, not being the golden grass we just ran over, but instead it looks a lot more like snow, maybe hinting towards islands having drastically different weather tied to them. A little further on, we can see just how big this cliff next to us really is, having a bunch of different levels to it. If we look to the bottom left of the cliff, we can also see hiding between the clouds what looks to be another one of those stone cubes, which makes me think that these are landmarks or some kind of new ruin. Here we can also get a far better look at this new item on Link's hip. It looks to have 4 kinds of pods attached to it, though we can see later on and within official artwork for the game revealed by Nintendo that it will hold at least 8 of these. I currently don't really have an idea for what these could be used for, but they have the exact same green colour as the green magic and hand that we saw holding Ganondorf down within the first trailer for the game. It's possible that these could relate to the magic hand and could maybe be some way of counting how many new powers we have unlocked for it. An interesting thing I noticed about the holder itself is that it looks to have an eye on the top of it. And the whole middle part really reminds me of the shape of the wooden statue you can find in Twilight Princess, which is used to help Ilia remember some of her past. Next, we can again see more of this cliff, and looking at parts further away we can see points pointing down. Interestingly, these don't look natural to me and look more man-made. In fact, the shape of them looks a lot like the top of the shrines found in the DLC for Breath of the Wild, just flipped upside down. They also remind me a lot of some of the floating islands in the Twilight realm. We can also see on the cliffside what looks to be a small waterfall coming off the side of the cliff. Now, the coolest part of this section of the trailer is what is on this outcropping of the cliff here on the left. Looking at it, it looks that there's possibly a couple of gravestones up there. At least 4 of them. We didn't really get a proper graveyard in Breath of the Wild, or really any spooky enemies, so it would be very cool to see a couple of creepy graveyards and some new creepy enemies that come out at night within them in the game. It would also be very cool to find out that one of these graveyards turned out to be the very same one from Skyward Sword. Also within this point we can see that Link has his shield along with a bow and a sword, though this is not the Master Sword, showing that once again different weapons like in Breath of the Wild will be able to be found. Still, we don't know if we'll have weapons breaking like in Breath of the Wild, so we'll have to see on that point. The bow also looks to be a new bow, as I don't recognise the ends matching up with ones from Breath of the Wild. As we pan around a little more, we can start to see other islands with more of these golden trees, and a smaller island above also with more trees. There's a dark part off to the back of the island on the right, next to a tree that doesn't look to be another tree. So could this possibly be a small house or building? And as we pan further around, we can see this huge building. Definitely can't miss it. It really looks to be some kind of old temple, and it looks to have many floors, so could this possibly be a new dungeon we'll be exploring in the game? I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat as me, but I really want to see traditional dungeons return once again to this game. A little to the right of this large building you can see another much smaller structure. It's hard to see exactly what it could be from how far away we are, but to me it almost looks like the tip of one of the undersides of the island above that has fallen down and planted itself in the ground. Speaking of the undersides of the islands, above we can see a couple more, large points facing downwards that again I don't think are natural and seem very man-made. The thicker one on the left has a green colouring to it that reminds me a lot of the new robotic monster from the last trailer. The shapes of these ones actually remind me a lot of the bottoms of the City of the Sky, which had a lot of these large points pointing downwards which had propellers attached to them. On the far left, way into the distance, is what looks to be another small building, almost looking like a building with a telescope attached to the roof. And there seems to also be a bridge close by connecting the two parts of land to each other. On the island floating to the left, we can see what looks to be another one of those stone cubes. And looking a little further, we can see something very familiar. Just poking out from the floating island, we can see the tip of a tail. This tail belonging to the dragon Naydra, who we saw and rescued from Malice in Breath of the Wild. This confirms the hope myself and many others had that the dragons would be returning, and hopefully we'll be able to see them flying all over the sky at different points in time. It would be very cool if they never left like they did in Breath of the Wild, and this time spent all of their time up there in the sky. You can actually see a little bit more of Naedra's body poking out from between the trees right next to the stone cube. And as we move to right before Link jumps off the island, we can see that the bridge that we saw before, by what looked to be a house, is actually ending close to another possible building. And a little to the left of it is actually what looks to be a house with a chimney. Now, it's very far off and very hard to see, but if I'm right, this would confirm people living in the sky, which is extremely exciting. Though, this could just be a tree. It's very far off in the distance. Close by to this possible house, possible tree, is some pillars that resemble those that we can find around Faron. And looking at the bottom of the island, we can see what looks to be another couple of waterfalls, the water from them running off the side of the island down to the land below. On the left is also another island with some stone ruins on them, though we can't really see much from here. Then we see Link jump and fall through the clouds. Not much to really say here, it's a callback to Skyward Sword and the way that he falls in that game. It could also be that at this moment he's jumping through the cloud barrier from Skyward Sword, and that we see again in the sky when the dragons leave Hyrule in Breath of the Wild. It would be a very cool little detail if this is mentioned in the game. It is very cool though that this does seem to confirm that travel between both the sky and the ground will be almost seamless, so hopefully we don't have to sit through a cutscene or loading screen every time we want to travel between the two. Now for the first time in the trailer we are back in Hyrule, at least I'm guessing we're back in Hyrule. This looks to be the Faron Woods due to the Zonai pillars we can see. We can also see that on the left is what looks to be a cave entrance, which is extremely exciting because I missed caves in Breath of the Wild. I just really missed going through them in the dark like in Twilight Princess. So if caves are returning, I am very happy. Then we have the main part of this section, the new ability. Now I don't know if this is going to be an upgrade for an already existing rune, but it could be the same one that we saw before in the last trailer. In that, we see Link almost duplicate a spiked ball and send it back towards the monsters. Could this be the same ability, just working in a different way? Could this maybe be an upgrade on the stasis ability from Breath of the Wild? In that game it was used to stop time, but perhaps in this one it could be used to reverse time. Maybe this piece of rock fell from an island above, and Link is using this power to reverse time as a way to get to the top. As we go up, we can see lots of little islands, but on the left there seems to be a very large density of clouds covering one or a couple of islands, and we can see that within those clouds are flashes of lightning. This reminds me greatly of the Thunderhead from Skyward Sword, and could be used in a way to limit us getting to certain places till later in the game. We can also see as we go up a all new enemy. This is a flying enemy that was not seen in Breath of the Wild, but could be something that was seen from past games like a Kagarok. It could also be what was depicted just off screen in the stone carving at the start of the video. I'm sure some of you know of my problems and thoughts on the lack of monster types in Breath of the Wild, so I'm very happy to be seeing new ones within this game. Let's just hope it's not only 1 or 2 new types and we get a few more. Now we get to see the only clip of Link in his new green costume with his hair down in this trailer. We're in the sky and can tell by the clouds and darkness below. This shows that we shouldn't be limited in exploring the sky at night like we were in Skyward Sword. We can see below another island with stone ruins on it and a waterfall falling down to them. And we can see Link climbing up the root of a giant plant that's possibly on the surface above us. This clip also gives us a very good look at the axe on Link's back, which honestly looks very primitive to the one seen in Breath of the Wild. Could this be another hint towards the time travel theory, the Link in green and the Link in blue being different Links in different times? Or maybe could this be a sign at crafting that we'll have to gather our own materials to make our own weapons? Either way, it shows that different weapons definitely will be returning. And now we're on to the single biggest part of the trailer. As Link falls, we can see a lot more islands in the sky, some closer to the ground, some closer to Link, and some way off in the background that look tiny from here. And of course, the huge one in the top of the screen. This looks to be the biggest floating island that we've seen within the trailers so far, and could maybe be one of the main islands that we will return to at different points in the game. It would also be very cool if this turned out to be Skyloft from Skyward Sword. Its size would definitely point to it being a possibility. Along with the islands in the sky, we can also get a good look at Hyrule itself, and can see Hyrule Castle floating with a fountain of malice under it. Of course, we saw this in the last trailer, but this shows that at least at this point of the game, Hyrule Castle will not be going as high as the Sky Islands, and will remain closer to the ground, though this could change and as we play through the game the castle gets higher. But Hyrule Castle is not the only location with malice that we can see. Death Mountain has malice pouring out of the top of it. This is a very cool image and could suggest that we need to venture inside the mountain itself to stop it, which I think would be a perfect place for a dungeon. It also makes me wonder, are our Goron brothers okay? Will they be affected by malice or have they fled? Focusing back on the ground, we can see a pillar or tower that was not there in Breath of the Wild, close to the left of the screen, along with a large hole in the centre of the screen. Now, I think this large hole is where one of the Sheikah towers once was in Breath of the Wild, one that had water all around it. And if so, the tower and water are now all gone, and this could lead us down to some underground areas. Close by to the hole, we can also see a green pattern on the ground right outside of Hyrule Castle. It's hard to see what it could be, but very shortly we'll see another. As we move on, Link lands on his new glider, a big upgrade from his one in Breath of the Wild. But we do know that one will still be in the game, as we did see it within the last trailer. This new glider is clearly connected to the islands above, as it has a very similar style to that of the mechanical monster from the last trailer, as well as the building that we saw at the start. So I wonder, how long into the game will it be till we get this? Will it be something we get very early on, like the glider in Breath of the Wild? Or will we get it perhaps halfway through the game after completing some tasks? A little thing about the glider is when I saw it, the shape of it reminded me of the Georg pair from Minish Cap, the giant stingrays that fly in the sky. Also, will this thing be used as just a glider, or can we use it to actually fly around Hyrule? We can see as Link starts to move on the glider, below is another green pattern on the ground, and this time it's far easier to see. Looking at it from the angle that we see in the trailer, it may not look like much, but flipping the image upside down reveals that this is an image of a woman that looks very close in style to those we saw at the start of the trailer. Could these be used as landmarks, or appear after certain items or objectives have been completed in that area? Maybe these are connected to some new part of the game that kind of replaces the shrines. No matter what though, I definitely think these symbols are important, especially saying this one looks like a woman in a very similar style to those images at the start of the trailer. It doesn't seem like just some throwaway thing you'd put in there for no reason. We can also see that pretty much right under Link's glider is another one of those stone cube structures we saw up in the sky. This makes me wonder, did it fall from the sky? Could they possibly have a function, or are they just going to be some new type of structure around both lands? Finally, there's something right at the bottom of the screen as the logo begins to come in. It looks almost like a mini whirlwind. It also looks similar to the green spiral of magic holding Ganondorf down within the first trailer, though a lot smaller. My first idea when seeing this was it was something to send us up in the sky. In games like Minish Cap, little whirlwinds were used to gain an updraft, or to simply shoot you straight up into the sky. like the one that sends you to the cloud tops. So could this work in a similar way? It's green, showing a connection to the sky and the magic we saw in the first trailer, so I think it's a pretty good guess on what these could be used for. We then see the logo, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. The image to go with this title being the Ouroboros symbol, a symbol that references infinity. We all know of the infinite loop that Link, Zelda and Ganondorf are trapped in, the never-ending cycle for them of always being reborn. Could it be referring to that? Though this time there are two dragons constantly eating the other, opposed to the normal one, which definitely adds a little bit more interest and mystery. Along with the Ouroboros dragons is the new Master Sword. Breath of the Wild had the rusted and destroyed Master Sword as a part of its logo, but now we have this super interesting looking half original, half Zonai sword. It's very cool, and obviously I can't wait to see how this turns up in the game and what it means for the story. Also, I really hope Fi is okay. The Master Sword got split in two, and now it's being refused? I don't know if that sounds very fun for her. All around though, this logo looks great, and I really love it. I can't wait to see how the Master Sword is incorporated into the game, and I can't wait to see how the Ouroboros symbol is also incorporated into the game. And so that's it, the end of the trailer. And I honestly did not expect to be talking for so long about it. There really are a lot of little hidden details within this trailer that could be pointing to so many cool things we could see within the game. I am super excited to explore both the clouds, the surface, and possibly even below the surface. Hyrule has changed since Breath of the Wild, and that's going to make exploring the same places we know and love an exciting adventure all over again. So thank you all for watching all the way to the end of today's video. I know it probably ended up a long one, so it means even more that you stayed the entire time. Do tell me what you think of this trailer and if you saw any other little details in it that I missed. I'll love to hear about them. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give the video a like. It's the easiest and quickest way to show me that you are enjoying the content that I make. Also, if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you never miss a video from me. With Tears of the Kingdom on its way, I have a lot of videos in the works to do with it, along with my normal general Zelda ones that I'm sure you'll also enjoy. So thank you all again for watching all the way to the end of today's video. I really do hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!